Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Koch. I'm the chair of the North Andover Zoning Board of Appeals. Welcome to our meeting of April 13th. We open all meetings with the call to order, which I just did, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone will please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, to the republic for which it stands, under God, individual, with liberty and justice for all. I was reading at the same time. My apologies. Next item, I'm going to call the roll to see who is available and who is here from the zoning board. The roll: Frank Pillay.
I'm here.
Steve Sidey.
Present.
Mike Liss.
Present.
Brilliant. Alexandria Jake.
Here.
Ellen McIntyre.
Present.
Ron Fagan.
Present.
And Paul Koch, I am here. Alan Clerk is recused. Next, we've got announcements and procedures. The first thing that I'm going to do, everybody, this stuff gets boring, so you can go do your dishes while you wait. I've got a supplemental announcement regarding COVID and remote meetings that I will verbatim as quickly as I can so that we can move on. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapters 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's July 2nd, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of North Andover Zoning Board of Appeals will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information in the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of North Andover website, www.northandoverma.gov. For this meeting only, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so on their televisions by tuning to North Andover GovCAM Comcast channel. Oh boy, I hope it's channel 8 or Verizon channel 26. You can correct me at the end, please. So once again, I'll say by tuning to North Andover GovCAM Comcast channel 8 or Verizon channel 26 or online at www.northandovercam.org. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time by technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of North Andover website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive records of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. If the public would like to participate in public hearings, please email your question or comment prior to or during the meeting to jbattersby@northandoverma.gov. That is the zoning administrator. Her name is Jennifer Battersby, and the email address once again, J as in Jen, Battersby, B as in boy, A-T-T-E-R, S as in Sam, B as in boy, Y, at northandoverma, all one word, .gov. J Battersby at northandoverma.gov. The question or comment will be read during the proceedings and responded to accordingly. A copy of the application and supporting documents are on file in the Zoning Board of Appeals, 120 Main Street, North Andover, Massachusetts, and may be viewed on the Town of North Andover website at www.northandoverma.gov. A handful of kind of ground rules and announcements is that we are still in the COVID environment, which means that we have this unsatisfying and cumbersome medium of remote meetings by conference call, or I guess some folks are on a Google Meet. I also need to make the announcement that we are on phone lines right now, which means, and we are being recorded. This is a public meeting of the North Andover Zoning Board of Appeals. You are not being wiretapped. This is a public meeting over the phone. Next, when not speaking, would everybody please mute yourselves? The Google mute or unmute is a *6. After that, you can use the mechanical mute on your phone. Any paper shuffling, clicks of keyboards and mice, even breathing, it all adds up in a public hearing like this where there are any number, or there are at least 10, 12, 20 people on the line. All that stuff adds up and then we can't hear one another for the substance. On the other hand, when you are the one speaking, then please get as close to the microphone as you can. Once again, for you, the Google Meet mute unmute is *6, and then you can use your mechanical mute on your phone or computer. Last, variance and special permit matters. They all require a supermajority to pass. So if 5 members are present, which we have at least that tonight, then a matter needs 4 votes to pass. If only 4 members are present, then a matter needs all 4 votes to pass. So any matters tonight of substance, special permits, variances, they need 4 members to vote in the affirmative. Anything less than that, and the matter is rejected and then requires a 2-year waiting period for refile. filing. So that gets us through the boilerplate of my pre-meeting stuff or early meeting stuff. And we move on to agenda items, which are the acceptance of the minutes from March 9th, 2021. If there is no discussion, entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I will move to accept the minutes.
That sounded like Ron made the motion. For a second.
I'll second them.
Alexandria.
All right, Steve Alexandria, thank you for the promptness of getting through this. Motion made and seconded. I will, these are rather go up the roll, go down. It's easier on my sheet. Yes, for to accept. Ron?
Aye.
Ellen?
I'm going to abstain. I was not at the meeting.
One more time?
I'm going to abstain. I was not at the meeting.
Right, thank you very much. And Alexandria?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And Steve?
Aye.
All right, thank you. So we have 5 to accept the minutes of March 9th. Next item, we have a procedurally continued meeting. Didn't quite open, so tonight Mr. Clerk is recused. We are going to have Alexandria Jacobs, full member. She's going to fill in as clerk, and she is going to go through the motions of, I think, both of these simultaneously. We have a lot 43 Linden Avenue A, and we have a 43 Linden Avenue B. So Alexandria, yours.
Here we go. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Town Hall at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. on Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. Oh, I should probably change that. The Board of Appeals will be holding a virtual meeting on April 13th, 2021 at 7:30 to all parties interested in the petition of Zendoco LLC for property at 43 Linden Ave, Lot A, map 022.0, lot 0039, North Andover, Mass. 01845 in the R4 zoning district. The applicant is requesting variance pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-7.1, lot area, and section 195-7.2, street frontage in the R4 zoning district. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.1, lot area, and table 2, summary of dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for lot area in the R4 district to construct a new home. Lot area proposed is 7,500 square feet. Lot area required is 12,500 square feet. The relief variance needed is 5,000 square feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.2, street frontage, and table 2, summary of dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for street frontage in the R4 district to construct a new home. Street frontage proposed is 75 feet. Street frontage required is 100 feet. The relief variance needed is 25 feet. Due to the state-issued emergency order, Town Hall is currently closed. Therefore, the application and supporting materials are available for review via the Town of North Andover website at www.northandoverma.gov under Document Center. By order of the Board of Appeals, D. Paul Koch Jr., Esquire, Chairman. The next is for 43 Linden Ave, Lot B. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a virtual hearing on Tuesday, April 13th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. to all parties interested in the petition of Zendoco LLC for the property at 43 Linden Ave, Lot B, map 022.0, lot 0039, North Andover, Mass. 01845 in the R4 zoning district. The applicant is requesting variance pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-7.1, lot area, section 195-7.2, street frontage, and section 195-7.3 yards setback in the R4 zoning district. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.1, lot area, in table 2, summary of dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for lot area in the R4 district of the existing home. Lot area proposed is 7,500 square feet. Lot area required is 12,500 square feet. The relief variance needed is 5,000 square feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.2 street frontage in table 2, summary of dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for street frontage in the R4 district of the existing home. Street frontage proposed is 75 feet. Street frontage required is 100 feet. The relief variance needed is 25 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.3B, yard setbacks, in table 2, summary of dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for front yard setback in the R4 district of the existing home. Front yard setback proposed is 19.7 feet. Front yard setback required is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is 10.3 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.3B, yard setback in table 2, summary of dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for rear yard setback in the R4 district of the existing home. Rear yard setback proposed is 23.1 feet. Rear yard setback required is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is 8.9 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.3B, yard setbacks in table 2, summary of dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for the right side yard setback in the R4 district of the existing home. Right side yard setback proposed is 9 feet. Right side yard setback required is 15 feet. The relief variance needed is 6 feet. Due to the state-issued emergency order, Town Hall is currently closed. Therefore, the application and supporting materials are available for review via the Town of North Andover website at www.northandoverma.gov under Document Center. By order of the Board of Appeals, D. Paul Koch Jr., Esquire, Chairman.
Muted, sorry. Thank you very much, Alexandria. Now that we have read the notices and the hearing is open, I just want to make sure that we have the applicant still with us. Who do we have from 43 Linden tonight?
Tom Zarico, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you, Tom.
And then you have Derek Zarico. I'll be doing the presentation or allowing the screen access for my dad.
Terrific. Thank you both. So what I have, I'm kind of going to be directing a lot of these comments to you, Tom, because I had a conversation with the town tonight, and they are suggesting that since we have had so much feedback from abutters, that we certainly open the hearing tonight, get the applicants, statements, exhibits, all that kind of stuff out on the record, have some interaction with the board, and then continue to May 11th. And the twist on this is that we're going to continue to, again, Tom, this is with the applicant's indulgence. There is nothing that forces you to do this. You can say no, and then we'll just force a vote tonight one way or the other. But again, I'm just offering what was suggested to me tonight. So open with the applicant's materials, applicant's testimony, presentation, and then continue to May 11th, where we will have the balance of the hearing under the tent at the Stevens Estate, which will afford the members of the public an opportunity to speak in person, and we can actually have a two-way dialogue about the matter. So that would also, what the town also advised me is that that's going to require a renoticing because we've got this change of venue and the passage of time. So got to get notices back out and published in order to achieve May 11th. But then I kind of throw all of that to you, Tom.
So Paul, does that mean advertisements in the newspaper and everything else again?
Look, I'm shaking my head as I say it, but unfortunately, Tom, yeah, that is what I'm saying.
I think it's, I understand, and I think it's probably the most reasonable way of going about it at this point. It's a pretty large expense, but I guess it's what we have to do, so we'll do it.
Yeah, so thank you, Tom. Believe me, there may not be a lot of people, on the phone or on the Zoom tonight that appreciate what that means, but that is a not insignificant expense and certainly a not insignificant amount of effort to get the green cards out.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And so now I'm kind of opening things back up to the wider audience, to the folks from the public that may be listening. So what we're going to do is we are just going to have the applicant and the board speak tonight. We're going to ask that we know that you have sent in, there have been a number of emails and mailings that have come in. We are going to hold those to May 11th, where you will not only have the benefit of those items on and in the record, but you will have the benefit of being able to verbalize your sentiments on the matters. So we are going to put a pin in public testimony for tonight. Again, I know that that is might be unsatisfying in some ways, but hopefully it is much more satisfying in that we'll have the opportunity to have you say your piece and hear your piece in person this month. So with all of that, Tom, I'm going to say, hey, the floor is yours. Why don't you tell us what's going on in these applications?
Okay. Thanks very much. For the record, my name is Tom Zarico, 15 Estes Street in Amesbury. I'm the applicant. Alan Kusha, who's a member of this board, is the property owner, and he has recused himself from this hearing. He is with me tonight as well. If I could ask I think, Jennifer, if you can give my son Derek control of the screen for the visuals that were supplied in hard copy, that would be great.
I think I should be good. Is this good?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep,
Everybody
I can see it just fine.
Okay. Okay. Well, obviously, we would have preferred to have an in-person hearing and have delayed the hearing for many months with that hope, as everybody knows. But eventually, we just decided to proceed since we have no predictable termination to the COVID shutdown regulations. So we'll proceed as the chair suggested. These applications together involve the proposed dividing of the parcel at 43 Linden Ave into two equal 7,500 square foot lots. Lot A with the existing garage to be raised and replaced with a cottage-style single-family home, and Lot B with the existing home. Variances requested include lot frontage and area for both lots, and yard setbacks for only Lot B for the existing home, which is currently pre-existing non-conforming with respect to those setbacks. And just in the way of clarification, those variances for side setbacks on Lot B, the existing home, are just a reflection of the fact that those are existing conditions today. For perspective, we have this satellite view of the area with the subject site highlighted, showing the existing home, the grass yard, and the detached garage to the left as you're looking at it from Linden. There's a couple of street views, Derek, if you can advance that, looking in both directions on Linden, giving a sense of what's on the ground there today. We have a handful of typical home photographs from the neighborhood, the typical eclectic older north end of the neighborhood. All but one of these were constructed before zoning was established. Here are some views of the subject property, Derek, if you can advance. The existing home sitting close to the lot line on the right side, the open yard and garage to the left in the open field. If we go on to the next slide, also for reference, this is the original subdivision plan for the neighborhood, which shows when it was subdivided long ago, the typical 5,000 square foot lots being created at that time. Here's a little more crisp view of the current conditions and giving a sense of the relative spacing of structures in the neighborhood. This map is essentially taken from the town's maps, assessor or zoning maps. You can see the highlighted yellow lot and the garage, which is to be raised, is actually only 26 or 27 feet from the rear lot line there. The existing survey, existing conditions survey, Derek, if you can advance, that gives all the detail of what's out there on the ground with specific dimensioning. The proposed new lot arrangement, which is as highlighted in red for the house, which would comply with setbacks, and you see a driveway access there as well. This is a full overview of the Linden Ave and the parcels that we'll be talking about in more detail that relate to this. And then we have a zoomed in view of both the north end and the south end, again, just giving perspective for what's out there, in the field today. You can see the locations and various orientations of the homes in the neighborhood as well. For perspective on the neighborhood statistics and zoning compliance, we have a comparison table of the 22 homes on Linden showing the lot and home sizes in a relationship between the lot and the home expressed as a ratio of the lot size to the home size. As you can see, the subject is the largest lot in the neighborhood and has an average size home on it. Noted at the bottom, you see the proposed lots and how they compare. As proposed, the lots would be smaller than average, but there are still 3 smaller lots on Linden as well. This scatter diagram, I think, summarizes things visually in a pretty clear way. The blue dot is the existing house and lot, clearly outside of what's typical in the neighborhood. And the red dots are the 2 proposed lots, which are on the smaller side, granted, but are more closely aligned with the balance of the neighborhood, which is shown in orange. The next chart shows the level of compliance of the existing lots and homes with current zoning. Again, most of these homes, all but one, were built before zoning existed, with the exception of 50 Linden, which is a more recent build. And although this isn't confirmed by a survey, from review and scaling of the zoning and assessor's maps and data, it appears that no house and lot on Linden actually complies with current zoning requirements. In fact, 18 of the 22 homes on Linden do not comply with lot area, front or side yard setbacks. I think this speaks to the hardship question, in that due to the large size of the lot and extended frontage, the property owner is disadvantaged and being held to a higher standard of compliance than what is typical of the neighborhood because of the balance of the neighborhood was more densely developed prior to zoning. You can see how the proposed lots compare, as noted at the bottom of this page. 18 of the 22 homes would remain not compliant on the same dimensional standards as the proposed lots, albeit to varying degrees relative to those standards. Finally, the proposed single-family home, which was designed to reflect the scale and character of the neighborhood and to comply with all yard setbacks, front, side, and rear, and provide a minimum of 3 off-street parking spaces. And with that, I turn it back to the chair for questions or comments.
Thanks very much, Tom. And I, in turn, kind of throw the microphone out to the board for comments, questions, ideas before I speak.
Tom, I have a question for you. Why is this a hardship? Are you not creating your own hardship? You're saying the oversized lot is a hardship.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's an interesting perspective. I mean, yeah, basically what I'm saying is that the hardship exists in that this lot is oversized for the neighborhood and relative to the neighborhood, and the property owner is being held to essentially a different standard than the rest of the neighborhood.
But in that sense, aren't you, by splitting the lot, you're creating a more of a hardship by making them less conforming? And so you're creating your own hardship is what I'm getting at. So just.
I guess it depends on your perspective. Would also be getting rid of some violations at the same time, Ellen. The garage is a violation. That's a violation that would be removed. So there's it's a balancing of good and bad, I guess, in that regard.
So if you eliminate the variance on the garage, but you ask for 4 other variances, I don't know how that's a equal, give and take. So I'm just having a hard time accepting that variance, that hardship for a variance that it's an oversized lot. I mean, it's the soil shape and topography, drive that variance, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around it just to understand how that is a hardship.
Yeah, well, I think it's a different way of looking at it, Ellen. I hear what you're saying, and typically people are looking at hardship as something being undersized. In this case, what I'm saying is the hardship is that the lot exists as a much larger lot with more extensive frontage, and the property owner is being held to a standard to maintain and retain that, despite the fact that there's not a single house or lot in the neighborhood that complies with our current standards as we have them.
Any other questions? Not Ellen, but any other?
I got a few.
Please, Ms. Jacobs, go ahead.
So an argument of only one house is built after the zoning is horrible in the aspects that if we were talking before zoning, the applicant would be held to the exact same standards as all of the homes prior to zoning. And when you're talking about an applicant that bought a property 2 years ago, the argument of his hardship is having to maintain it, i.e. mowing the grass, when he bought one big piece of land, this is what he bought, it's what he saw when he bought it, is again, not an argument to create a hardship. Because you cannot sit here and have the argument of he has too much open space, therefore it's his hardship. He is being held to the exact same standard anybody else today is in wanting to build something today. You can't have something today and want to go back to prior to zoning. It does not work that way. So if those are the arguments that you're looking for to get a handful of variances and almost another handful of variances on the other one, I don't see where that's going to cut it. I can't justify maintaining grass as a hardship. And that's exactly what it sounds like you're saying, is that his hardship is that he has so much open space. So correct me on that if I am wrong.
Well, that's not the way that I would phrase it. I hear what you're saying.
Correct my phrasing then. I'm trying to understand how the hardship is a square piece of land and that's his hardship. And if the argument is, well, it's a hardship because the zoning makes it impossible for him to build, that's not the hardship. That's not the hardship that you can have. You can't use the zoning as the hardship. That doesn't work.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I guess I'm not saying that we're using the zoning as the hardship, but using the rest of the neighborhood.
But you can't take the rest. You can't take the rest of the neighborhood, because then you're basically saying, well, these houses were built in 1950 prior to zoning, and because they don't adhere to zoning now, we should force all of the owners to rip them down, which would be a ridiculous statement. The applicant bought a piece of land that had more yard. He knew that when he bought it 2 years ago. This isn't a situation where he bought the land, zoning was completely different at the time that he bought it, and now he was late to the punch, and he wants us to go, back a year or two to prior zoning laws to allow for him to get what he wants. So that argument, again, doesn't hold a weight. And I appreciate, I will say this, I appreciate that the style of the home is something you were trying to make fit in. But just because the one neighbor to 43 Linden Ave, Lot A, is 10 feet away, doesn't create the reasoning enough to, we'll just plop another house on the other side of 43 Linden because it just fits right in there like a puzzle piece. Because every other house on the block is only 10 feet away from their neighbor. Because then what's the point of having the zoning laws? What's the point of having the side setbacks and the rear setbacks and the front setbacks? We might as well just throw them all out the window. You can only use what the neighborhood currently looks like so much as an argument.
So this is Paul, and it is not my intention to pile on, but hardship is a question that I certainly had in mind as well. Since we are accustomed to the triumvirate of soil, shape, and topography, I'm not hearing any of. Occasionally, we refer to there's an argument to be made, again, discretionary about a financial hardship, which might be something that the applicant is trying to shoehorn in here, but I haven't heard it so far. And it's kind of hard to hear a hardship argument on something that is going to create two undersized lots, all the problems that we've had. But nonetheless, I just am saying out loud that I'm struggling with the hardship as well. I'm not certain that we're making a lot of progress on that itself. So perhaps we should, I guess, entertain other questions or other angles, or if there is a different way of verbalizing the hardship question, then certainly I welcome more discussion on that. So with that, again, looking up and down the table at the board, saying what else do we have to talk about?
Yeah, let me ask a question. I hope it's not an inappropriate question. I'm still looking for a compelling reason why this needs to be done. And given that I also agree that hardship is not defined as having a lot that's too large, is there a compelling reason? I mean, let me back into that by saying if I had to assume what that reason is that the property was purchased thinking that there was an opportunity to divide the lot, create a second home, and sell it. So I guess I'll just ask Mr. Zarico, is there any other compelling reason why this needs to be done?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, from the perspective of a real estate professional, we're encouraged and told and suggested to look for lots and locations just like this via the master plan, via regional planning, is to look for lots that don't require more infrastructure to be built, more burden upon the municipality, that already have utilities and facilities in place. To that question, I mean, I guess that's part of the additional reason for looking at locations like this and trying to find places that it makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Again, looking up and down the table.
So I think the thing that I struggle with here is that I'm sympathetic to the idea that this is a house that is not going to massively disrupt the community, and it is its plotting is sort of a victim of timing, in terms of the sense that it would not have been out of place before the zoning law was placed in, and the zoning law, the exclusionary zoning law, was placed with the idea of making it so that you couldn't add lots to that area, and that is something that from a larger planning perspective is probably not ideal, but that unfortunately is not the purview of this board. This board is really not here to be reassigning zoning law, even if we feel that it is not just. And so I think the thing I similarly struggle with finding a reasoning within the purview of our board that makes sense to permit this structure.
Thank you, Michael. I'm not sensing. Was there a question? I'm not trying to.
I don't know if I have a question, but I feel like this is, sort of, I guess, part of the conversation is that I'm looking for a reason. I'm similarly looking for a reason to say that this needs to be there, that fits our point of view, like our abilities as a board, and I don't see it, and so I would like help from the applicant getting there. You know, if not in this meeting, by the time we have our one in May.
Right. Well, I don't have, offering no opinion one way or the other, whether I agree or disagree. One of the things that Tom noted, and we've certainly heard in past hearings, and certainly going to any housing meetings, is that the town is always hungry to add I don't want to say as much housing as it can, because that makes it sound like every single opportunity is sought. But the town looks favorably upon, generally speaking, the addition of more housing. The Commonwealth looks favorably upon more housing being developed because we are in a mature market. You know, the lands have, generally speaking, been developed. I think that while that may not necessarily carry the day, I'm not trying to carry the day on it. I've just heard in past hearings, both our board and at the planning board and at master planning hearings, that the efforts to create more housing in North Andover are sought. And this is just, I think, one of the most, micro deployments of infill, perhaps. So anyway, not to belabor it, but again, I will thank you for the comment, and I suspect that the applicant will find something for our May hearing. So again, figuratively looking up and down the table for other thoughts from the members of the board. Can't see anybody. They might be reading or looking or perhaps muted. Anything from the board?
I have nothing else. That's wrong.
Okay, it doesn't sound like we have a lot from the board. I think that the thing that I'll offer to the applicant is that when we were developing the legal notice on this thing so long ago, I remember, as I do with not very many applications and notice drafting, I remember kind of gasping at just the number and oftentimes percentages needed of relief for this application or this pair of applications. And I'm not necessarily a guy who likes to offer a cruise ship of relief, particularly when I haven't necessarily noticed or heard declared, that the hardship driving it, aside from what I heard somebody say, I'll repackage an earlier saying of, there was perhaps a speculative purchase here of looking to develop, a second home. Doesn't necessarily land in the hardship category for me. It certainly could for others because there's an awful lot of discretion for the board members. But back to my original story, which is looking at the raft of relief requested, gave me pause. I have, however, driven through the neighborhood, as I'm sure other board members have, and I do my best to do my spatial planning and envisioning and all those things. And it looks like something could fit there. I don't disagree with the sentiment that there's a lot of space there. I think that's kind of, it's objective that there's a large gap between the garage and the home. It's very subjective as to whether or not that's enough to support a second dwelling unit. So the drive-by was somewhat illuminating. There's a lot of illumination in the comparison chart that you provided, assuming that I can take it at face value. I know that it's not gospel, Tom. I know that you haven't surveyed the entirety of the neighborhood, but just a kind of a glance at it makes it suggest that this is not extraordinarily out of bounds. Again, I'm just looking at things kind of by the numbers. If I compare your numbers for 43 and 49 Linden with your numbers for the balance of the neighborhood, I mean, there's there's a statistical argument that it fits. And there's a drive-by sentiment that makes me feel like it can fit. I sit here, however, this is just an effort to continue the conversation and make sure that we cover as much ground as we can in this limited setting, and hopefully cover more ground, or my expectation is that we cover an awful lot of ground on May 11th. But the table I'm setting here is that the application and notice gave me pause. The drive-by, I'm not going to say it fully unpaused me, but I can certainly understand how an applicant could come to the conclusion I can fit another home there. I'm not convinced that even if a home could fit there, I'm not certain that a home should fit there, which again falls in kind of like the discretion of the board, particularly when we're not finding, you know, an articulation of a clear and convincing hardship here. So again, I don't think that there's a question in there, Tom. I don't think there's a question in there, you know, for the board. It's just kind of food for thought as we move into the weeks between now and May 11th, and then arrive at 11th. So that's my long-winded way of offering some thoughts, kind of at the tail end, since it seems as though the board has exhausted its thoughts for the night. It's never my intention to step on anybody. So once again, I'm going to figuratively look up and down the table and say, does anybody have any last thoughts, perhaps, before we are continuing to? And again, as a reminder to everybody, we are continuing so that we can have face-to-face, in-person, real live testimony from members of the public on May 11th. So again, figuratively looking up and down the table. Any further or last thoughts, board members?
Yeah, I have a question. This is Frank. A lot of the letters that came in from the abutters were concerned about drainage. So have you, Tom, have you done anything to look at the drainage situation in the area?
Well, you know, typically what would be done in this kind of a scenario is that the drainage would be retained on site by infiltration methodology. You know, that's typically what's done on you know, on an infill like this, whether that's through you know, dry wells or whatever calculates out to accept that that additional impervious area gets retained on site.
Yeah, well, they seem to be concerned that there's a high groundwater level there. So your surface drainage is maybe ties into your groundwater level, but those solutions might not address a higher, you know, if you're retaining on site, that might just be adding to the groundwater level.
Well, that's an interesting comment, Frank. Again, one of the ways to alleviate that is to not put in a full basement. You're not displacing that volume of soil and or water or whatever, and that's something that we've done routinely on infill lots as well to mitigate that change to what's underneath. By building on slab, yeah. Building on slab, Frank, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And it doesn't. I don't know that that's the crux of what this hinges on here, but you know, it was a concern that had been brought up, so we should at least address it, I thought. So.
Yeah, I saw those comments and expected that would be a topic of discussion.
Well, I'll chime in. It sounds like there was a natural pause there, so I'm going to break in. Thank you for raising the issue, Frank. I was a little bit myopic in not thinking about approaching some of the items addressed by the correspondence that has come in. I think that's an extraordinarily productive way of using some of the weeks between now and May 11th. I suspect that Tom does too. It sounds like he has received some of the correspondence. So it is not my intention tonight, Tom, other board members can certainly have another idea. If they've got a question, fire it away. But it's not my intention, frankly, to address all of the neighborly concerns tonight. I would like to save that so that the folks who have that concern can have the opportunity to verbalize that concern. So with that, again, I am looking up and down the table. Any other thoughts from the board members?
Alexandria here. So I'm wondering, and I'm learning from my mistakes, if you guys are able to get us, and I don't know how you'll do it, but an average height of the homes in the neighborhood. Because I know you have the height of the one their proposed new house, but I'd like to know the average height of the other houses in the neighborhood.
We could probably won't
I'm
be
not asking
welcome.
for you to go out with the measuring tape, but
I was just going to say probably wouldn't be welcome with a measuring stick on most of these, but certainly could give reasonable estimates. You know, if that's something that you'd like to see.
I've learned from my mistakes, so I would appreciate that.
And I'm very familiar with what you're referring to. In fact, the original home, if you look way back to when we originally submitted this application, it was a different home design, and in the interim, we took note of some other things that have gone on in infill lots, and scaled it back vertically as well as horizontally from what we had originally suggested go there.
Any other thoughts from the board?
Hey, Paul, if I could jump in, if the board is done.
Yeah, please do.
I just want to say, first of all, you know, I appreciate the thought that you all put into this and the commentary. Obviously, you know, this board has a lot of discretion. I understand that and respect it. You know, hope that you would see the logic in the hardship that I proposed. I understand that there's some level of discomfort with that, but let me see what we can come up with, and again, trying to make this something that's not precedent setting, but you know, comfortable for people to get their arms around.
That'd be great, Tom. Thank you very much. What I will ask, Jennifer Battersby, we're going to be renoticing this. When do we need to have the notices out, I guess, to the trib?
April 21st.
21st, so we've got approximately a week. The notices are largely drafted, so we just need to kind of repackage them. All right, Tom, if you would connect with Jen in the next couple of days to make sure that we don't create any foot faults here, that would be a welcome effort.
Okay, we'll do.
With that, then, it sounds as though we are exhausted for the evening, putting a pin in a whole lot of stuff for May 11th. Assuming that's true, then shall there be a motion to continue to May 11th, and we will be at the live and in-person tent at the Stevens Estate. Is there such a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue to May 11th.
I'll second.
I heard Alexandria, and then there was a mix.
Mike and Ron, pick one.
Give it to Mike. Mike won.
Mike gets it, but Mike gets it by stride. So motion made and seconded again. Since we are remote, we're going to do everything by the roll. It's easier for me to go down than up. So I'm going to start with myself. Yeah, aye for continuance. Ms. McIntyre.
Aye.
Ms. Jacobs.
Aye.
Mr. Fagan.
Aye.
And we'll go down Mr. Killalay.
Yes.
All right, we are continued then to May 11th. Thank you, Tom and Derek, and thank you to the board. See you in a month.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Continuing on the agenda, it's a thin agenda. Have a chapter 4, no action is needed, and then Jen has also put on a discussion of the board regarding meeting in person with staff and with ZBA and staff only. So actually, Jen, would you mind offering to the board what that might look or sound like? Jen may be working.
I think a message came up saying that Jennifer left the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Oh, she might not have realized we were just continuing that hearing.
So what it does look and sound like is if anybody watched some of the school committee or other stuff on TV, with some of the board members, the school committee members anyway, have sat in the administration building and been on camera, you know, with the microphones and, you know, all of those trimmings. And then other folks were remote. So there's like a hybrid of this hybrid that we've been enduring. So the kind of question mark to put in front of us, and we do not necessarily have to come to a decision tonight, but we could certainly get a feel for comfort level for folks in, again, we're only in April, and in May we are going to be outdoors at the Stevens Estate, so we'd be looking all the way forward to June before this would happen. Now, the state of the world being what it is, not everybody is vaccinated, not everybody is comfortable, and both of those things I respect, and that is why we're asking, what kind of interest would the board members have in appearing physically at town hall, so that when I don't have to metaphorically look up and down the table for all of you, I would just need to look up and down the table for some and metaphorically for others. Any thoughts?
You can count Alexandria out on this.
Oh, I need a little more information. Would masks be required? Is it 3 or 6 feet now? Is anyone else going to be in the room? I mean, you said it's a hybrid mix, or is it the full board?
So my suspicion, when you say anyone else, my vision of anyone else is board, Jen, Paul. If he were interested in attending this, then there is nothing compulsory here. I want to say that strongly. There is nothing compulsory about it. This is just an effort to, if people feel like things are easing, and if people feel like that's something they would want to take advantage of, if they want some semblance of, air quotes, normalcy, then this is an option. But so who's in the room? My vision is it's the board, whomever wants to appear at town hall. I think that it would make sense if Jen were there. She has not been polled, however. Paul Hutchins could be there. He has not been polled. And I got to believe that NACAM would need to be there. They have not been polled, but they would certainly have a voice in this. I would have zero expectation that it would be, that the public is invited. I would even have, I think, some limited expectation that the applicant were invited, but that's something that I would certainly need to iron out. So right now, I'm just talking about board, Jen, Paul, and NACAM in the room. If there's a comfort level with that, then inviting the applicant, and again, limiting numbers of applicant, which may or may not be pragmatic, for just a deck off of somebody's single fam, one person for the applicant makes sense. Somebody's coming in trying to build 200 residential units, they're going to need a team.
So would this be in the Board of Selectmen meeting room?
That's what I have been told. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the other question I had, so masks obviously would have to be in place, and
Yep.
as well as a 3 feet distance or a 6 feet distance, or
I think, look, I would be shooting for 6 feet. I feel like the retreat, again, I am not a scientist, everybody. I have I read the news. Sometimes I read a little more deeply than that, but I am just a regular guy on this one. But my sense is it doesn't feel like 6 feet is over for me anyway. And I guess since I'm holding the gavel, Ellen, I would suggest that 6 feet is what we would be needing at a minimum. And we would certainly be cracking the windows open even on the hot days and taxing the HVAC system. But those most basic precautions would certainly be in place. And again, nobody's forced to come, and I would love to have everybody's input. It doesn't have to happen tonight. This is not necessarily a matter for an open meeting kind of thing. This is not a matter of substance. We are not doing policy here. We are just doing how the board wants to operate. So we are not constrained by the open meeting law when it comes to, hey, Paul and Ellen, how do you feel about 6 feet? That's not an open meeting law kind of thing. The reason it's on the agenda tonight was just just to tickle everybody that it's something that we could start thinking about. We don't have to start thinking about it. It's just something that we could start thinking about.
Well, I'll share an initial thought with you, subject to reconsideration. I'm less concerned about contagion, but I don't understand the purpose. The reason you have a meeting down at town hall is to invite in the public. So while it would be nice to see everybody's face in person again, we still don't have the public participation that we want. Therefore, I don't see it as being advantageous over what we're doing now, except that you don't metaphorically have to look down the room. So given that, I would assume there is still some risk of contagion, and that it might be more compelling to some people rather than others. I don't see a strong advantage to doing this.
I hear you loud and clear.
Well, Paul, I would look forward to it. This is Frank. I know I'm going to be fully vaccinated by then. I don't know the status of anyone else, but as long as we're complying with whatever guidelines the state and CDC have, I'd look forward to doing it.
Yeah, so I'm similarly, I won't be fully vaccinated, but I will be 2 weeks past my first shot, at which point I will have some protection for myself at least. But I mean, I'm also somebody who's been at work in person since last June, because they don't let me do much chemistry at home. And so I'm perhaps a little more desensitized to this than some folks. I'm not sure that that's good or bad, that just simply it's where I am. I'd be pretty comfortable being there, certainly with masks and distancing, but I'd be comfortable being there. Oddly enough, the trickiest thing for me might be childcare, because I typically put my kids to bed about 3 minutes before this meeting starts. And I had not yet planned for this meeting to be in person, but I can try to work that out.
What resonates for me, Michael, is that my workplace is still fully remote. I go in once a week, and the air quotes upper management is now talking about planning for the return. It's not tomorrow. It's not next week. It's not next month. It's none of those immediate things. But again, no battleship stops on a dime. So we're thinking, well after Labor Day. But the most common observation by folks, or things that people need to readjust, is childcare. I'm speaking for myself in that conversation, which is that my life has just gotten built around being able to be home and haul the kids to the pod, and then get the kids to soccer in the afternoon, and handle the plumber or the gas guy or whomever. So I hear you loud and clear that childcare is something that always needs to be managed.
This is Alexandra. I'm still in my bubble. I mean, my kids have not been in daycare and won't be going back until possibly the fall. So I'm not somebody that would attend in person. I'm even wondering with the in-person on May 11th. I have a dad who is recovering from a hospitalization, hasn't been vaccinated. I haven't been even started a vaccination. So I'm not somebody comfortable on any kind of in-person period.
Thank you for that. So with that in mind, even in spite of every precaution, there are certainly lots of folks in positions like yours that can't come or are that's not my intention to be so judgmental.
I'm overly cautious. And my thing is just, I would rather not do a zoning board meeting and risk the health of my family, obviously. And that's just my personal stance on it.
Well, it's not only a personal stance; it's your personal, your personal situation. If you've got somebody in the house, for crying out loud, that you shouldn't be taking any chances on. I mean, I get it. So where I was going is I'm going to need to run back to the powers that be at town hall and ask them, or to confirm with them that we can still have a, remote board member or two or three or whomever it is that doesn't want to attend the tent. The tent is by and large an opportunity sought to be given to, whether it is embraced or not by the members of the public. The tent is an opportunity for the public to come and speak in person and to have a dialogue about things, since we've had, an intensity and a volume of interest in this.
I do want to add that I took part in a recent school committee meeting that was where the school committee members were allowed to be there in person along with the superintendent, but that I'm on another subcommittee, and that subcommittee we attended remotely, and it was quite feasible to do that. There's a little bit of clumsiness where I personally embarrassed myself a little bit in public, but outside of that, it was relatively straightforward to have the Google Meet merged with the broadcast of the meeting. It was not a difficult thing for CAM to do.
So the two things is, again, I'm resonating with you, Michael, because I embarrass myself every month when we have these meetings. So I'm totally with you. And the second thing is that I always concern myself with this. So the school committee is I know you know this. I'm just saying it out loud for discussion. School committee is a different animal entirely, and oftentimes has more technological capability, much like the board of Selectmen, than we in the cable committee may have. But nonetheless, I absolutely have as a mission to see how, or not to have as a mission to find out if, but my mission is to ensure that we can have remote board members at this tent meeting. All right. Anything else from folks on this?
Yeah, Paul, this is Steve Sidey. Everyone else has weighed in on their feelings on this one, but I'm just letting you know that if the option to meet live is available, I will be there.
Okay. That's helpful. Thanks, Steve. Since I haven't even said it out loud either, it's something I don't necessarily embrace the air quotes group meeting kind of thing. But what I do embrace is that as chair, it is a whole lot easier to run a meeting in person than it is remotely. That's just my professional limitations there. So if there is a remote if there's a tent meeting next month, and there will be, then I will be there as well. I am a little less clear on my feelings about attending, a town hall, but that's probably more of a kitchen table conversation than this.
Oh, is that weather permitting, or is it all weather with the tent? Is it enclosed on? I haven't seen the there.
Yeah, it's a big old wedding tent. I went to the book sale or whatever it was. The library does their book sale in the fall, which we went to, and yeah, it's a big old wedding tent. The walls come down, the walls go up.
And they'll also do a hybrid version of a meeting as well they do it there as well. Yes, that is my mission, to ensure that we can have remote board members at the tent meeting. Okay.
All right. Any other thoughts, folks? Well then.
Again in a week or 2 weeks, and I'm sorry, I don't know. I confused it, and I just didn't read my email properly. I thought the 20th meeting was taking place for this, but why are we meeting?
So we have a meeting. I believe that it's next week. We have
It was a noticing issue.
The sob story is that the Eagle Trib had a technological glitch. It did not get the notices published when we needed them published, so they would have been late. Therefore, we couldn't have that matter at tonight's meeting. Trib publish them so that we can have a meeting the following week. And this is an applicant who was kind of, there was a little bit of a fire drill on this. And we need to get some closure on the building. I'd rather not go into the substance because it's kind of not appropriate, but we need to get closure for the applicant.
Okay.
And I wasn't trying to be rude. I don't want to get into the substance because it hasn't been noticed. That's all. I'd be happy to tell anybody the story, but not at the. All right. Well, if there is nothing else, again, figuratively looking up and down the table, I'll give it a 2 count. Then we should probably have a adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Alex, and the second was that Frank?
Steve.
Steve. Thank you. And all in favor, I will. Hi, Ms. Mack.
Aye.
Ms.
Aye.
Jacob. Mr. Fagan.
Aye.
And Michael, you're up.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next week.